Welcome back to The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time. Previously, I entered a room which looks really important, but at the moment there's literally nothing for me to do in it. Over here, you can tell because of the map that there is nothing I can do over here. There is an invisible wall that blocks me from checking out anything to the right or left or anywhere that's past the line of the invisible wall. There is a tree in the middle, which, fun fact, is actually a metal thing apparently. So there's that, and on the other side of this room there's a door which is locked. There's nothing I can do in here until I turn around and notice that something spawned. This is the mini boss of the water temple. It's time to face Dark Link. Conquer yourself. This boss fight is really cool. He'll block literally every attack you throw at him. A normal slice, he'll just parry you. If you do a stab, he will jump right on top of your sword. He's essentially making fun of you. Jump attacks, he'll dodge out of the way. If you try to use... I actually do want to show off everything that you can attempt to do and how he will react. If you try to use a long-range weapon, he'll roll under it and then backflip away. That includes a Deku Nut. Your Ocarina obviously doesn't do anything. You can land hits with bombs on occasion, but that's a little bit difficult. But something that is actually kind of neat to note: if you wear your iron boots, Dark Link will also be very, very slow. So if you want to slow him down for whatever reason, you can do that, though it's not super helpful in my opinion. I might actually try a tactic later off camera where I put on iron boots and use the Megaton Hammer, but the Megaton Hammer is actually a little bit difficult to get hits in on him due to the fact that it has such a short range and he, well, shields against it all the time. The only super reliable way you can actually get damage on Dark Link while Z-targeting is using Din's Fire, because sorry, I'm trying to find the right word for this. He can't avoid it almost at all. It's possible for him to do it, but it's very, very difficult. But here's the way I recommend beating this boss. Stop Z-targeting and spam B. The reason Dark Link is so easily able to block all of your attacks is because you're Z-targeting him and facing him head-on. If you move around and just spam B, you'll relatively easily be able to get hits on him, and it's just a nice tactic. So just spam B, or you can use the Megaton Hammer, but again, it has pretty short range, so it kind of sucks to use. I want to say this right now. This whole fight, in my opinion, the intensity of it is undermined by the fact that you can just spam B. And the reason for this is, it's such a nice concept. I love the concept of this fight. The build-up for it is fantastic. You're in this room, you can't do anything, and then you just walk around and you turn around, and then there's just this thing there that looks exactly like you, and he's making fun of all your attacks, which you think would easily be able to deal with him. And he's essentially mocking you and mimicking everything you do. This whole fight feels super pointless due to the fact that you just run around and spam B to deal with him relatively easily. I'm actually having a pretty bad time with this. I usually don't do this terribly, but apparently he's doing a better job blocking my attacks than he was previously in my failed recordings of this. But it makes this fight feel really boring and basic and uninteresting. And I'm really sad that's the case, because conceptually it's so fantastic. And he will drop usually 20 rupees when you kill him, but apparently he can also drop, I believe that was 15, which is kind of funky. I don't know why he dropped 15 there, but you can also tell that this entire room was just an illusion. Everything that we saw in this room before, it was so interesting, it was all just a magic illusion given to me by Ganondorf. I assume Dark Link was also an illusion. So that's pretty interesting. That's why we couldn't actually go explore like it was Breath of the Wild and see what else was in the distance, because there was literally nothing in the distance. But we beat that. And now that we've actually completed that mini-boss, you probably know what we're gonna get. An item. I'm actually a really, really big fan of the item from the Water Temple. The item is extremely useful outside of the Water Temple, so it's not just some one-use, one-trick pony. It's the long shot. It's an upgraded hook shot. It extends twice as far. This is absolutely fantastic. Not only was the hookshot already great to begin with, because it was really, really useful in the entirety of the world of Hyrule, but now it can go even farther, which is absolutely fantastic for getting secrets. It's absolutely fantastic for getting gold Skulltulas. You'll actually see that in a little bit, because there's a gold Skulltula coming up. It's absolutely fantastic. It's great. I love it. Now, there's something I want to talk about. And it has nothing to do with this game. I might as well get the whole gimmick of this area out of the way. There are actually vortexes here, and there's also a current. So you want to, on occasion, put on your iron boots, but I'd recommend, honestly, keeping them off the entire time, going with the flow of the current. And whenever you see a vortex, just swim as far away from it as possible. Because if you do get pulled into a vortex, you will end up being sucked in, get a heart taken away, I believe, and then you'll be in the place where you got the long shot again. Vortexes don't really show up all that often. I believe there's one more room with them in this dungeon, but that's about it. They don't appear as a hazard throughout the rest of this game, so they're not too big of a deal. And sometimes you do get sucked in, you have to kind of give up and just let them take you away. But a lot of the time you can just power through and actually save yourself from being sucked into the vortex. It's usually not like a certain, oh great, I'm sucked in, if you get caught for a little bit. It is possible to swim out usually, because again, you can just willpower it through. But sometimes you do get stuck in, and I'd recommend just, again, not using your iron boots. Despite the fact that they do seem like a good solid idea, just don't use them, because there are a lot of slopes here which actually make using the iron boots very unviable, because if you slip, those iron boots will take you straight into the vortex, because you'll slip and slide all the way into it. So it's not the best idea. We're actually going to have to use a hook shot immediately here. We could try to swim over there, but it's not very useful because this actually closes pretty quickly. So you want to hook shot over here and not almost walk by this chest like I was about to do, because there's a small key inside and you need every single small key you can get. This takes us back to another room that also has the spinning current. The current's used a little bit more than I thought it was. I thought it was only used in this room and then like one other place. But it is actually used quite frequently to make it so that you have to go through a room in a specific direction, so you can't actually go back. That makes this this dungeon a little bit annoying as well, because there are some rooms where you can take a one-track path, and then after that you have to actually go back again, and you have to, if you missed anything, it's kind of annoying. I don't know. Currents have never been a super big thumbs up from me. They're nice in certain areas, but usually just makes it like, oh, I missed something. So it's like an auto-scroller essentially, but you can kind of fight against it. I'm just not that big of a fan. But anyway, I want to actually talk about something. Nintendo really was interested in changing the water level of certain areas in N64 games, and I assume that's because it's the third dimension. That's actually, you know, something that you can do, and it'll work out better in 3D. Because they also did this in Mario 64. I've been playing through the game again recently, and I've noticed that, dear lord, in Wet Dry Worlds, you also have to change the water level, and both of those levels really suck. So I find that kind of funny. I think I want to... do I want to do this? I mean, it can't hurt. I'm in this section already. What I want to do is I actually want to lower the water level back to the bottom, because there are a few areas that I can get to now that I couldn't get to previously that are on the second level, so I want to lower it to the bottom, go through that whole thing all over again. This is another reason people don't really like the water temple. I've already talked about it. Just having to go through and raise the water level up and down to get to certain areas when it could have been so easy. To just make it so you had specific areas that lowered the water level, I guess, wherever you wanted it to be, because that would just make things a little bit easier. Or at least, so they made it so you didn't have to backtrack as much. That's just my opinion. I want to say something that I completely forgot to talk about when I was talking about how the water temple made how Ocarina of Time 3D made the water temple a little bit less of a pain. These sections right here, which are just Triforces in the N64 version. In the 3DS version, they actually do show what water level you are changing the water level to be at. So, for example, this one, if I went up to this Triforce section right here, it would actually not look like a Triforce exactly, because there would be a little, there would be 3 bars, I believe, and the lowest bar would have the water near it, showing that you would lower the water to the bottom level. So I just thought that was kind of interesting to note. It's something I completely forgot to talk about, which is kind of sad, because it's also another thing Nintendo did right when remaking the game. So if you're interested in having an easier time in the Water Temple, I recommend playing the 3DS version, which is actually something I want to talk about really quickly. I actually don't know if I want to be here just yet. I can come back here later, and it's better for me to come back here later, especially if I want to have the easiest time and the most efficient route through this area, so I'm not going to do that just yet. But something I forgot to talk about is the fact that I had an extremely easy time with the water temple first time through this game. I played on the 3DS version, so I had a lot of the fixes that made this temple less of a pain to deal with. And I also didn't really know how to play that much, which made the Dark Link fight extremely easy. And I want to say this right now. The Dark Link fight looks to be so menacing, and it freaks you out at first, because you're like, this is going to be insanely difficult. This is going to be crazy hard. But first time through, you really shouldn't have that much of a problem if you don't know how to play the game like me, because I didn't end up Z-targeting on that fight. I just spammed B and didn't Z-target, and that's why that fight was so easy to me. I had a lot of hearts, I had a bunch of fairies at my disposal, and I just ended up using, I think, one fairy or so, and I just tanked his hits and had a really easy time with them. Which is why when I returned to this game on the N64 later on down the line, when I bought the Wii U N64 copy because I was interested in seeing what the game was like before it was actually remade, I was having a terrible, terrible time with Dark Link. And it's weird. It's weird. I never actually knew what the problem with Dark Link was until I actually looked it up specifically for this playthrough. I remembered having a terrible time with Dark Link. I tried recording a part where I faced him and it didn't work out. So I looked up the best ways to deal with Dark Link. I saw a Master Sword only run of Ocarina of Time, and they just didn't see target, and they spammed B. And that's how that fight went down. Also, there was a block we pushed extremely early on in our time in the Water Temple. This is what it was used for. If we didn't push that block, we'd have to raise the water, or, yeah, I think we'd have to raise the water level or lower it a little bit, so that we could actually pull that block again, so we could raise the water level or lower the water level a little bit, so I could push it out, so I can get that small key. But now I have 2 small keys, and that means I can actually continue on. I want to do this. Did not want to pull out my bow and arrow there. I'm having a few problems with that. I don't know why. Maybe my analog stick is getting a little bit funky on my Pro Controller, but yeah, I've had the Pro Controller for a while at this point, so if it is getting a little bit funky, that's to be expected. Also, can I say something? Just real quick. The Switch Pro Controller is absolutely fantastic. I love it. Ergonomically, it's amazing. That being said, if I'm being real with you, it is pretty weak, because I ended up playing Mario Kart with it, and Mario Kart is a very intense game for me, and I ended up, like, kind of chipping off a lot of the place on the analog stick where it comes in contact with the side of the controller, side of the part of the analog stick that pretty much keeps it from hitting, I don't know. It keeps it intact, I guess. Keeps it in the place it's meant to be. That's not the best way of saying it, but that's the way I'll say it. And it started to, like, chip off, and now there's just, like, little white parts all over my, Pro Controller, that just come off from my analog stick due to the fact that I am a super hardcore, intense gamer. And I don't understand why that happens, because I've played that way my entire life. I've always been very aggressive with my motions, and my Wii U Pro Controller has been fine for multiple years. My Wii U gamepad has been fine for multiple years. My analog sticks on my GameCube controllers are fine, and same with the, what's the word I'm trying to think of? Nunchucks on my Wiimotes. All of those are fine, yet my Wii U Pro Controller seems to be having the problem. The Joy-Cons don't have the problem like that, or don't have a problem like that either, so it's just kind of funky. I don't know why that's happening. But anyway, sorry. I should probably talk about the game. I am kind of doing a Let's Play of Ocarina of Time, not Let's Play of talking about the problems of a Switch Pro Controller. But, there were some stingrays, or stinger, whatever those guys are called, I don't know. They appear like twice in the entire game and never appear again. And they're not even hard to deal with, so I don't remember your name. You're not worth my time. Or at least that's what I'd like to say, but they do kind of get some damage on me sometimes, so I don't really want to say that because that would be a little bit too cocky. But this area right here is pretty easy. It's another block pushing puzzle, and while I'm doing this, I might as well say something. Oh yeah, also there's a switch I have to push the block onto. It's a pretty simple puzzle. Past this point, as long as you know where the keys are, you shouldn't have a hard time, because we're actually very, very close to the end of this dungeon. We're almost done. But, today is, just to break a little bit of your immersion, today is September the 13th. And I'm recording some videos because I want to get them done now, quickly, Very, very speedy-like. Because today, the DLC for Hat in Time comes out, Seal the Deal, which if you haven't played A Hat in Time, it's a fantastic 3D platformer, which I highly recommend. It's pretty short, it's fun to 100%, and there are a lot more things I can do in it now with the Seal the Deal DLC, which came free if you bought the game already and downloaded the DLC immediately, day one. So that's great. Today's also the Nintendo Direct, so there's going to be another Nintendo Direct very, very soon. It got rescheduled to today, so I'm pretty excited about that. And I've been watching a lot of Ace Attorney content, and I also have Apollo Justice, so I've been playing that and watching some Ace Attorney content. And it's made me kind of want to do a blind playthrough of an Ace Attorney game, because I'm not... My biggest problem with doing blind playthroughs would be my lack of insightful commentary, but the entire point of the Ace Attorney games is to think, to come up with ideas, come up with hypotheses, and figure out what needs to be presented to make those hypotheses you had about who's the murderer come to fruition, to actually, you know, become to beat the game. I don't know what I'm trying to say. But I've always been kind of afraid of doing blind playthroughs, because I've tried some before. I've tried blind content, and to be perfectly frank with you, I'm not too good at doing blind commentary, because a lot of the time when I do play games blind, I do a lot of internal monologuing. I think about things, and I don't necessarily talk about them out loud. That being said, I feel like the Ace Attorney games would be perfect, because I enjoy, first of all, doing voices. Doing voices is really fun. Also, before I continue on with that little spiel, there is a spiky boy right here who I have to immediately kill, because, let's be real, Nintendo puts a lot of... I want to say this, they make a previously disliked dungeon even worse when they, first of all, do the mechanic wrong, so that's why people don't like this dungeon that much to begin with. But then they put jerk enemy placements everywhere, and this is the first time I actually did notice all these terrible enemy placements, like previously with the Blue Tektite, and then with that clam guy. It's kind of dumb. But anyway, I think doing an Ace Attorney game blind would be really fun, because I could do a bunch of voices, have fun, and you'd get to see my reaction to that. It'd be nice. I want to try to do that at some point, but I hit my mic, first of all. Second of all, I got the boss key. That's kind of important. And with that, we can actually go to the 3rd floor again, because that is where the boss door is located. I haven't actually talked about this just yet, but I might as well show it on my map, because, you know, might as well. The boss door is right up there. You can see it. There's a room I haven't been to just yet. There's only one room that I've not been in between me and the boss room. And trust me, it's not a very important room, nor is it a very difficult room. So, just kind of want to show that off. We're very, very close to the end. Oh god, I'm doing a lot better than I was doing beforehand. I actually did a failed recording of this, where I recorded for about 42 minutes, and in the end, the footage was corrupted, essentially. My audio was completely borked due to the fact that, you know, Elgato likes to be a little bit of a cheeky guy sometimes. It likes to completely destroy my audio and make it completely terrible, and I just decided I would re-record it. And now that I actually do understand how this dungeon is working, now that I actually do know the best route to go through this part of the dungeon, which is honestly the part of the dungeon I don't remember the most, I am doing actually pretty nice. It's been about 20 minutes since I started this recording. 18 to be exact, almost 19. So that's nice, that's nice. Though I shouldn't really talk about that, as I'll probably be cutting stuff out later, and that time will be wrong. I don't know. Talking about the exact time that your video is at while recording versus how it's going to be during post, it's weird, because a lot of the time I do make small cuts and just make little extraneous edits in the end that may affect time. So me saying the exact time might be like, oh, so he did some type of cut at some point, and because his time isn't exactly like what he said it was. I don't know. It's weird. I don't know why I was thinking about that. But anyway, we're going back up through a lot of areas I've already been through, which is kind of why my mind was wandering. It's all just muscle memory at this point. I didn't want to pull out a bomb, but you know what? That's what I get for always putting... You know what? I didn't even want to... I always put my Ocarina on the right stick, the right C stick, and I guess that's what I get for putting the bombs on there and assuming I have the Ocarina on there already. So, With that, the water level rose a bit more, and there is only one more room for us to enter. This is always the parts of the game I get kind of thrown around in, and this is kind of the reason that I don't like the water temple specifically, or this is the part of the water temple I always get thrown around in. My apologies. I always think, okay, so there's just this one place I gotta go to. Are you hearing that? I'm currently taking care of another dog, because a family member is going through surgery. So we have a dog who is very active comparatively to the dog I currently own. So let me go deal with that. I'll be right back in a little bit. Come on, Chloe. Come on, Chloe. Dogs being dogs, barking at things that literally don't exist. And you know what? I used to get really, really mad at recordings. I'll be perfect, like recording, interruptions, I guess the best way of saying that. Like just then, if my dog barked, I'd be like, come on! I'd be really, really mad because it would break the flow. But I actually don't mind them that much anymore. This right here was a room I completely bypassed because I was talking about my dogs barking. These are some sliders. They are going in just the perfect harmony so you can slide right by them, because this right here, let me just show it off, I might as well, is a bit of a slidey section. If you stop or make too much of a sudden turn, let me show. If you make too much of a sudden turn, you will end up falling straight back down to the bottom. If you get hit, obviously, you'll fall straight back down to the bottom. So it's a little bit tricky to get right the first time, but as long as you get the timing just right, just how you like it, it does turn out pretty easily. It's not a terrible room to get by. And here's the boss door. So, Link, look out! That isn't normal water over there. Looks pretty normal to me, but before I actually go over that, I might want to look at the room a little bit just to get my bearings. There are spikes around the walls, so I have to be careful about those, and there are a lot of hookshot points. There are 4 pillars in the middle, which I can climb up, and I might as well try doing that right now. This is the giant aquatic amoeba, Morpha. This boss is actually relatively easy if you know how to deal with it. Don't stand on those pillars despite the fact that you might think it's the best idea to get damage on this boss. Stand in a corner or very, very close to a wall where spikes aren't. The reason for that is he will reach out his little weird water arm. His little heart section will actually pop out, which you want to get a lot of damage on. I recommend doing spin attacks very quickly. And he'll essentially reach for wherever you are. If he grabs you, he'll shake you around like a little bit of a toy and just throw you against the wall, doing a little bit of damage. I actually think it's like 4 hearts, so it's pretty devastating. So try not to get hit. Just avoid his little water arm, and he'll actually just come to you. Stand in the corner, spam attacks, you're fine. This boss, similar to Dark Link, if you know how to deal with it, is really easy. If you don't know how to deal with it, it's pretty hard. But if you do know how to deal with it, it's pretty easy. Luckily, I had a friend who had already played this game before I actually started, and I believe I was playing this in school or at, I don't know, IHOP or something. I don't really remember exactly where, but I was playing it somewhere, and my friend was like, oh yeah, all you have to do is stand in the corner, spam your long shot, and you'll be fine. And they certainly weren't wrong. This boss really isn't too much of a trouble. He sometimes actually sticks out 2 watery hands, so you want to be a little bit careful. One of them is very, very, very visible. The other actually is pretty light colored, so you might not notice it exactly. So be a little bit careful. Pay attention to your surroundings. You definitely don't want to run into spikes and take unnecessary damage, but you also don't want to get hit by the second hand either. I believe it is a little bit faster. As you can already see, yeah, it's actually sticking out right now. There are 2. He got a little bit closer than I'd like him to. That's fine, that's fine, that's fine. I just have to stay back a little bit, make sure he doesn't get any damage in on me. I might actually show off exactly what happens in a little bit. I don't know how much damage this guy can take, so I'm a little bit afraid of actually showing off getting hit, but that's fine. Right there you can see he has 2 arms. That's the best time I can show that off. Again, that other arm, it not only attacks more than once, unlike his more solid arm, but it's also very, very difficult to see, so pay attention, be careful. You can see exactly where it's coming out because it has a similar effect of coming out of the water as the other hand, but really it's not all that bad. The worst part is actually aiming your hook shot good enough to get an attack in on his main body, so that's probably the most difficult part about this boss. It's a lot of just waiting for him to attack you, waiting for him to get to a good section so you can actually get your hit in. It's not that bad though. Right there I missed him again. This is why I'm saying the hardest part is probably waiting for him to stop moving and then actually getting your attack in. It seems that I can only get... I probably could have gotten a second spin attack in there. You are kind of meant to stand on the pillars, but I really just wouldn't recommend it at all, because if you stand on the pillars in the middle, he will have a really, really easy time getting you. And if you just stand on the side, you get the same effect, and it's really much less difficult. I believe that's also why they put the long shot sections right there, so you could easily maneuver around the room and get off the pillars if you so needed to. But with the aiming on the N64, I'd recommend not trying to actually bank on not getting hit via the aim of your hook shot or long shot. I kind of had a voice crack there, my apologies. It's not good to bank on aiming with an N64 controller, let's just say that much. That's also kind of the reason I was not too keen on the Forest Temple boss, because you had to aim at least relatively well. It wasn't too bad because there were actually paintings that stayed in place, so if you missed it, you know, big sad. Well, it looks like I am actually going to show off exactly what it's like to get hurt. He will kind of shake you around and do some damage that way, and then throw you against the wall and do a bit more damage. I actually landed right on those spikes. I haven't had that happen before, huh? So that does, it wasn't 4 hearts of damage, I was completely wrong. It was a decent amount though, it wasn't actually anything even. It might do slightly more if it's the more solid arm, but I'm not necessarily sure. I believe that you can actually hit him in the water and pull him out, but the problem with that is that he actually moves very quickly and kind of swirls around. So if you do want to get hits on him like that, best of luck. I'm not expecting you to get anything done that way, but you can always try.
Where you going, you big drip?
Sorry about that. I had to make the reference. Come on. You know, look. At this point, you must know I'm a Sonic fan. I've talked about it before. I enjoy the Sonic franchise. So I had to make that joke, okay? I'm sorry. But anyway, on a more important note, we got another heart container, and now we are on our second row of heart containers. So we're getting there. I'm not going to 100% heart container wise, but there we go. We are getting closer and closer to 20. I wonder how close I am actually going to get by the end of this, but anyway. With that being said and done, there's nothing left for me to do here other than probably a few gold skull chills I missed, but let's get out of here. I'm done. Something I've never actually noted, when you get taken to the Chamber of Sages, you are surrounded by a crystal. This is a, reference, that's the word I was looking for, to an older Zelda game, A Link to the Past, the game that actually came before this one. So, I'm not too interested in A Link to the Past. I'm not actually too interested in a lot of the 2D Zelda games, but, I just kind of wanted to make a note of that in case anyone was going to tell me about it in the comment section down below. I know about it. I have at least seen people play A Link to the Past, but anyway. I would have expected no less from the man I chose to be my husband. Zora's domain and his people will eventually return to their original state. As a reward, I grant my eternal love to you. Well, that's what I want to say, but I don't think I can offer that now. I have to guard the water temple as the Sage of Water. And you're searching for the princess, Zelda? Ha, you can't hide anything from me. Princess Zelda. She's alive. I can sense it, so don't be discouraged. I can tell that nothing will stop you in your quest for justice and peace. You must take this medallion. Take it respectfully. I've never really understood that section where she says, take it respectfully. Cause it's like, okay, well, I understand you just pledged your eternal love to us, but we have Zelda, so we might have been giving you a slightly weird face. But, I didn't think that it looked like we weren't taking this medallion we worked so hard to get without respect. But whatever. We received the water medallion. Ruto awakens as a sage and adds her power to yours. If you see Sheik, please give him my thanks, okay? Something else to note about the design of Ruto is that she actually changed in the 3DS version. The adult version of Ruto looks like she's wearing a dress, which I am perfectly fine with because Ruto's design currently, it's a little bit uncomfortable to say the least. As the water rises, the evil is vanishing from the lake. Link, you did it! Did Ruto want to thank me? I see. We have to return peace to Hyrule for her sake too, don't we? Look at that, Link. Together, you and Princess Ruto destroyed the evil monster. Once again, the lake is filled with pure water. All is as it was here. That line got me in my failed recording too. Oh my lord. But yes, she does have a point. Lake Hylia is back to how it was before we actually turned into an adult. So, it's back to the way it was before Ganon took over Hyrule, which is pretty nice. There are a few things we can do here that we couldn't do before. Something I like about this cutscene is that, right here, first of all, Link runs extremely quickly over there, and you can also see exactly where Sheik is. You can see exactly how she disappears. It's pretty nice. Usually she just throws a Deku Nut down. I like how they didn't do that again. They actually had specific, interesting cutscenes for it. But anyway, with that being said and done, we're done here in Lake Hylia for now. Next episode, in The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time, we'll actually see what we can do now that the water level has risen up and a few areas are open to us. But again, that's for next time. Until then.